Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we are going to be talking about my Dallas Mavericks and the key 2021 offseason that is coming up on us now after losing in Game 7 to the Los Angeles Clippers in Staples Center. Tough end to the season, but there's a lot of good things for the future. Luka Doncic is only 22 years old. Kristaps Porzingis is 25. This team is young. Our window starts right now. Moving to the future, I think that we've proven that we are a competitive team. I think that we were going up against the best team in the West, arguably, in the Los Angeles Clippers. And I think, real talk, when we look at this team, there's a lot of positives, and there's some really easy ways for this team to continue improving as well. We've got some youngsters coming. But before we jump into today's video, I just want to urge you guys to hit that thumbs up button if you do enjoy the content you're seeing here at Utility Sports. It lets us know what content you guys want to see more consistently, and lets us know if you do enjoy the videos we've been posting. Also, if you are new, subscribe to Utility Sports. I'm a Mavericks fan. I'll bring a lot of Dallas Mavericks content throughout the offseason, everything you need to know about Dallas Mavericks basketball. This is the place to be, as well as just NBA content in general. Do a lot of different NBA mock drafts if that's something you're interested in seeing, as well as other NBA coverage, looking at all 30 teams all the time. That's our specialty here at Utility Sports, trying to cover everything in the world of sports as we move throughout the offseason here for the NBA. And the Dallas Mavericks are a key team to watch. So let's jump into today's video here. And let's talk about the end of this season. You know, we went 42-30 in the shortened 72-game regular season. And then we attained the 5 seed, the 5th seed in the Western Conference, despite some injuries. Kristaps Porzingis missed extended time, even came back early on that meniscus injury that he had in the bubble. And we had a COVID outbreak that really gave us a tough start to the beginning of the year. I'm sure many of you Mavs fans know about the post by, I believe it was either Bleacher Report or ESPN, saying that the Mavs were the 14th seed out in the West and the New York Knicks owned their pick this year. Everyone was hitting the panic button on Luka Doncic in Dallas. We finished being the 5 seed despite a very tough start to the year. And we lost in a Game 7 to the Los Angeles Clippers, a team that's loaded with talent. They've got some great fits on that roster, guys like Nicholas Batum, who really complements that roster. Reggie Jackson played really well down the stretch of that series. Rajon Rondo, of course, is there. Luke Kennard, I think, is a very underrated player by a lot of fans and the media. I just don't think he gets a lot of the credit he deserves for how crafty of a player he is, how talented he actually is with the ball in his hands as well. And he always makes the right plays. We saw that a lot in the Mavs series when he did play. Didn't get a lot of run in the first 5 games of that series, but Game 6 and 7, he had big impacts and really helped that team win that series. The Clippers, of course, pulling it out in Game 7, 4-3 in that series. But at the end of the day, you got to be pretty happy about the season. With some of the setbacks we had throughout it, I think that this team did end up overcoming some of those challenges, showed a lot of resiliency, and I think that's something Mavs fans should be very happy of having seen in a Luka Doncic-led team. So what are the key priorities for us Mavericks fans this offseason? Number one, it's got to be that Luka Doncic Supermax rookie extension. There's no other thing more important to this franchise than getting Luka on the books for another 5 years. We're going to talk about that a little bit more here in a minute after we go through some of the other key priorities. They have to have some internal discussions about Kristaps Porzingis, Mark Cuban, Rick Carlisle, Donnie Nelson. Everyone's got to get on the same page about Porzingis, his role in the offense. If he's going to be a Dallas Maverick long-term, they have to be on the same page. I have my feelings on it. I'll share that with you guys as we get to that portion of today's video as well. Third key thing, create max cap space. That's going to come through a trading of Josh Richardson after he inevitably opts into that player option, and also renouncing free agency rights to both JJ Redick and Nico Melli. That trade just didn't end up working out because Redick was not a go in the first round of the series against the Clippers. Tough loss there. We're going to have to just bite the bullet on that one. Only gave up a 2nd round pick. It's not that big of a deal. Fourth key thing, look hard in free agency once we have that max cap space for someone who can either score the ball, can handle the ball out on the perimeter and play make for others, or some real world-class athletes to play with Luka Doncic. We'll talk more about free agency in this video as well. Of course, re-signing Tim Hardaway Jr., using bird rights on him after we look in free agency and upgrade this roster. Key thing there. And number 6, of course, extending Jalen Brunson. That's something else we need to do. Tim Hardaway Jr. finished 4th in 6th Man of the Year voting. Jalen Brunson finished 5th. We need both of those two back long-term for the Dallas Mavericks to continue to be a team that people talk about come playoff time as contenders, teams that can make a deep run with Luka Doncic leading the helm. So let's focus a little bit more on that Luka Doncic extension, what we could exactly be seeing here. First of all, it's going to be a loaded contract. It's going to be the full max. Probably give him a no trade clause. That's what I would do. And even might whisper to him, hey, you could have some roster input here. But there's going to be one thing that the Dallas Mavericks are going to want in return for Luka Doncic to pass up on, and that is that fifth-year player option in 2026, 2027. Here you see I'm circling it with my mouse now at this point. That for $46 million would become a player option if Luka Doncic does sort that out, would give him the ability to enter free agency in the offseason of 2026. And of course, the Mavericks don't want that to happen. They'd like to push that back here to 2027. I don't think Luka Doncic is going anywhere. To be honest, I think he's going to play his whole career as a Dallas Mavericks, with the Dallas Mavericks. Like if you agree on that, let me know in the comments too if you agree with that. But I think Luka is going to be a Dallas Maverick for life. Hashtag MFFL, Mavs fan for life. He's going to be there long term. I think he's going to follow in the footsteps of Dirk Nowitzki. But at the end of the day, looking at the franchise, the organization, you still want that commitment from Luka Doncic. You don't want to give him that player option if you don't have to, and maybe giving him some roster input, some more decision-making ability in the front office with the team, which is a slippery slope, I'm aware, but giving him some of those things might let him be more comfortable with passing up on that player option. This amount of money too is absolutely insane. You're looking at about $200 million for 5 years. Of course, he's fully eligible for the Supermax at this point, having been an All-NBA selection in the 2019-2020 season. Probably will be an All-NBA selection in 2020-2021 season as well. Those selections are not out yet at this point, but I'm just coming to the full assumption that he is, based on his play, again, an All-NBA team member. And this is based on a $115 million cap projection in 2022-2023. Some of these numbers came from Bobby Marks. And this is what the roster breakdown would look like. This is what the cap breakdown would look like for Luka Doncic's max extension. This has to be priority numero uno for the Dallas Mavericks this offseason. So let's go into number 2, Kristaps Porzingis' future with the Dallas Mavericks. I made a video on this before the playoff series, and I know he had some struggles. Mavs fans, I know you're probably running out of gas on Kristaps, but hear me out on this. He's under contract for 3 more years. Right now is probably his lowest trade value he's ever had as an NBA player. He's actually healthy going into an offseason. He's going to have time to work on his game, add certain things to it, maybe get a little bit stronger, put on some muscle, especially in the lower body, hopefully. And also, there's time for him to figure out his utilization in Rick Carlisle's offense. Rick Carlisle is going to be back. That isn't even a question to me. Mark Cuban's not going to move on from Rick Carlisle yet, especially when this core is so young. So the key thing is not changing from Rick Carlisle, but adapting Rick Carlisle's offensive system to better fit Kristaps Porzingis. Luka Doncic talked about that in his exit interview today, saying Kristaps is a great player. We just have to find better ways to utilize him and get him more involved. And I completely agree. I've been saying that on the channel. Kristaps Porzingis' shortcomings as a Dallas Maverick are not his fault. It's the way that Rick Carlisle runs this offense heavily through Luka Doncic. You almost look at like a Mike D'Antoni styled offense with the usage rate we've seen from Luka Doncic, especially come playoff time. Just because Kristaps Porzingis is capable of spacing the floor doesn't mean that he should always be spacing the floor. He did a really good job in Game 7, cutting off the backdoor cuts, especially out of the zone when we're getting the ball to Boban Marjanovic in the middle. I think we need to see more of that, but I also think we need to go into the pick and roll a little bit more with Kristaps screening for Luka Doncic. And also I think we need to utilize some more off-ball screen actions to get Kristaps Porzingis the ball while moving. We can run him on some pivot screens, have him do some backdoor cuts off some screens. Also let him catch the ball a little bit closer to the hoop, try and get some switches, let him seal low instead of at the high post always. If you get him on the block against a smaller guy, it's going to be 2 points consistently. Kristaps is a great player. He's shown it when Luka Doncic has been out, averaging nearly 28 and 12 for the Mavericks in the games that he's played for them without Luka Doncic on the floor. He is a second star. I don't want to hear any of that talk that he's not a number 2 star. He is. He's a top 25 player in the world. When he's healthy and being utilized correctly, there's no argument to that. Mavs fans, you got to just give him a little bit of time. It doesn't all fall on his shoulders. Rick Carlisle is a lot to blame for this. I don't think Carlisle deserves to be fired for this, but there needs to be some adaptations, and I think Kristaps should be with the organization. Now, is it possible he gets traded this offseason? It 100% is. I would not rule it out. But I'm telling you right now, my thoughts are, I do not want Kristaps Porzingis traded. This man right here, Kristaps Porzingis, is a phenomenal player. You're not going to find a talent like him as easily as we acquired him in that trade with the New York Knicks. And talking about some trades, this is something we have to do this offseason. Move Josh Richardson after he opts into his $11.6 million player option for next year. There's no way he doesn't pick up that option. Played terribly down the stretch of the year. Played terribly in the playoffs. He's one of the worst Mavericks I've ever had to watch, to be honest with you. And I've seen Antonius Cleveland start games for us in the past. So I'm telling you, Josh Richardson, I just don't want him back. He's going to opt into that player option. We've got to find a way to move him. And I think we might have to attach Dwight Powell as well, and maybe a little bit of second-round picks, a few other things to get a deal done. If we do look to move Richardson with Dwight Powell, I think Buddy Hield is a guy that would be a fantastic fit in Dallas, kind of giving us a few different options, someone who can really space up, but also can handle the ball a little bit, kind of fills that Seth Curry role that we've been badly missing. Now he comes at a higher price tag than Curry. This isn't a net positive move from Seth Curry to Buddy Hield, in my opinion, but this is a little bit of a recuperation of talent based off of a mistake last year in the draft, trading Seth Curry for Josh Richardson. Mavs fans, I know you agree with me. If you've seen Josh Richardson play this year, you're just not impressed. His defense doesn't outweigh his offensive limitations. The Mavericks are better with him off the floor and will eventually be better with him off this team. For free agency now, after we move on from Josh Richardson in some fashion, we're going to have max cap space, and there are some key players to watch for this offseason, especially in free agency. Kawhi Leonard, of course, the top dog of all the names. That's not happening. Okay, Kawhi Leonard's not leaving the Los Angeles Clippers. He's going to spend the rest of his career in LA, at least the rest of his prime in LA, in my opinion. DeMar DeRozan, though, will not be back with the San Antonio Spurs. I can almost guarantee that. He's a name to watch. Chris Paul sounds like he's going to opt out of his player option. I think he'll probably return to Phoenix, but we'll see exactly if a deal gets done there. John Collins is a restricted free agent from the Atlanta Hawks. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get retained by the Hawks there in Atlanta. Lonzo Ball, a restricted free agent for the New Orleans Pelicans. He's an interesting name to me to watch. Rashawn Holmes from the Kings, one of the better value centers on the market. I think he's going to have a real market this offseason. Spencer Dinwiddie, assuming he opts out of that player option there in Brooklyn, going to probably get a 4-year, $50 million deal, something along those lines. Coming off of a serious injury, but he can really does a lot of different things well. Gary Trent Jr., a physical defender, restricted free agent. I don't think the Toronto Raptors are going to let him go anywhere, but he's an interesting name to talk about. Lauri Markkanen, another restricted free agent as well. He's an interesting name. We've already heard him be tied to the Dallas Mavericks, saying he wants to play with Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. I don't really know about that fit there. I don't think he's what we need. I'm not sure how you other Mavs fans feel about that. Let me know in the comments what you think about Lauri Markkanen to the Dallas Mavericks. For me, the best fits in free agency that would be real game changers at this point is number one, DeMar DeRozan. I think DeMar DeRozan is the player we have to go in on. Try and bring him in on maybe a 2-3 year deal and however much money it takes, to be honest with you. I want DeMar DeRozan to be a Dallas Maverick. In the playoffs, it was clear. We don't have another guy who can get to the rim off dribble drive penetration consistently off the perimeter. DeMar DeRozan does that better than most players in the NBA. He also creates in the mid-range. I think that's a missing element of this Dallas Mavericks offense. And I think, people are going to say, well, what about the spacing? It doesn't matter. He cuts well off the ball. He does a lot of different things. He's a very underrated playmaker. Spurs fans, if you're watching this, you'll know what I'm talking about here. Guy really has a good feel for the game, and I don't think a lot of people talk about that. Now, not the best defender, of course, not the best three-point shooter, but he's going to be a guy that I think gives the Mavericks a different dynamic on offense, and that's badly what we need. That's what we were lacking against the Los Angeles Clippers in this series. Someone else who can go get a bucket off dribble drive penetration. That's what DeMar DeRozan does. John Collins would be the next best fit. Extremely athletic, can shoot the three ball, improving defensively, highly athletic, big-time energy guy. Really accustomed to playing off the ball, has been fantastic with the Atlanta Hawks, playing off of Trae Young, and would be even better playing off of Luka Doncic in Dallas. However, like I said, I think he'll be back in Atlanta. Rashawn Holmes, probably the top big man we could get this offseason. Looking at him, he's someone I would be very intrigued pulling into Dallas as someone who's going to be able to play into his role. Look at Willie Cauley-Stein, what Willie Cauley-Stein has been for us, and think about a massive upgrade there at that center position. This would be more understandable too for letting Dwight Powell go at that point, is if you bring in Rashawn Holmes, it's an immediate upgrade in my opinion. Now I know Rick Carlisle really loves Dwight Powell, probably doesn't want to see him leave actually, but Rashawn Holmes I think would be an immediate upgrade. Spencer Dinwiddie, a little bit of a downgraded DeMar DeRozan for me, someone who can create off the dribble, a little bit better of a three-point shooter, not as consistent in the mid-range area though. like DeRozan is, and I think a little bit less of a playmaker as well. However, still gifted in that area. I think he'd be a phenomenal fit if the Mavericks miss out on DeRozan. Look for the Lakers to try and find ways to add DeMar DeRozan, possibly a sign and trade surrounding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope this offseason. I think the Lakers are going to be doing a lot of work this offseason as well. DeRozan's going to have a real market, I feel, but I hope the Mavericks are the team that ultimately lands him at this point. Let me know in the comments what free agent fits best in Dallas from this list over here, or if there's one that I did not put on this list that I think are key players to watch for. Let me know if there's someone you think would be a phenomenal fit in Dallas. And then the final step for our team here is, of course, inking Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jalen Brunson. Tim Hardaway Jr., a free agent this offseason. We have to use bird rights on him. 4 years, $80 million, giving him a player option. I think that's what his market's going to be, about $20 million a year. And after we sign someone, we can use those bird rights to go over the cap to keep him. So he will not be signed using cap space, which is phenomenal because you're able to keep your key players and also add some more talent in. This is a rare situation for the Dallas Mavericks because you have such a phenomenal player in Luka Doncic making rookie type of money right now. You have a little bit of cap space to play with. You can add in a max level player and still have Tim Hardaway Jr. coming in as well, back off of his new contract. I think that's great. And then you give Jalen Brunson a 3-year, $33 million deal. That's right in the perfect range where it's a mid-level contract. You're able to give him enough money where he's used as a trade chip down the road if something opens up. Maybe a potential move for Giannis Antetokounmpo or some other stars around the league. Maybe a little bit of an overpay for Jalen Brunson based on how he played in the playoffs. I do question his fit with Luka Doncic a little bit come postseason time just because of his size, defensive capabilities from our backcourt then at that point. However, he's a valuable player. A lot of teams would want him. This kind of right around that Monte Morris price range as well, what we saw him get with the Denver Nuggets. I think Brunson, very similar to Morris in the way that they play basketball and the value that they bring to an NBA team. And I think Jalen Brunson is well worth this $11 million a year contract and would have a lot of trade value around the league. At this point, that is our breakdown on the Dallas Mavericks offseason. I think the key things are keep Tim Hardaway Jr., keep Kristaps Porzingis, bring in a star free agent, whether that's DeMar DeRozan, John Collins, maybe a guy like Lonzo Ball, even though I don't love that fit necessarily as much as I do the others. Spencer Dinwiddie, I would really like. Maybe if you could bring in a couple free agents, someone like Spencer Dinwiddie and another mid-level player as well, that could also be very good for the Mavericks. They need to make some moves. First thing first, keep Luka Doncic, keep Kristaps Porzingis, and build around those two players. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the Mavs offseason. Also, let me know what you think about the Mavs season in general. Are you disappointed they got bounced in the first round, or are you just more so excited for the future? Thanks again, guys, so much for watching. Your support has been absolutely phenomenal. We're so close to 3,000 subscribers. Let's see if you can get us there today after this video. Thanks so much again, and we'll catch you in the very next video.